Gents, can I ask you to introduce yourself, Mohammed Iqbal, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully you won't be too relaxed and the conversation will be quite interesting too and will pique your interest for the next 30 minutes. I'm Iqbal Bedi. I'm wearing two hats today. I'm actually founder of Intelligence Consulting. We're a telecoms advisor and management consultant, but today I'm wearing my Whitehaul hat. So we are commercial advisors to Whitehaul, and for the last year we've been helping them commercialise, develop a business case for an innovative new technology, which Mohammed has been doing his PhD on for the last few years.
Yeah, so thank you, Iqbal. So nice to be here today. So I'm Mo Qasim. So I graduated from University of Edinburgh. I got my PhD in computer science. And then Whitehaul was part of my research there. And now I'm working with Iqbal and with Edinburgh Innovations to explore the commercial opportunity of it.
Brilliant, thanks, Jen. So we're here, look, see this? Look, slowly getting into a fireside chat position. Mo, Whitehaul, what's that all about then? What are you doing? What are the products that you've got? Because apparently there's some products with this, and that's going to be interesting. Who do you think customers might be? And probably for all of these lovely people out here, what geographies are we talking about that you think you might be able to hit with your technology?
Yeah, so Whitehaul is actually a spectrum aggregation technology. So as I said, we developed that in University of Edinburgh. So we use different spectrum bands to aggregate them together into forming one single wireless pipe that can achieve something like gigabit-capable wireless backhaul solution for wireless ISPs and mobile operators. So we have different use cases for that. So we focus on mainly 3 use cases. So the first one is rural broadband. So we're trying to work with wireless ISPs in order to provide them with a gigabit-capable solutions for long distances, so they can deploy that in their own network and provide customers with 1 gigabit per second speeds. So the second use case is actually the mobile operators and the rural backhaul connectivity for mobile operators. So, and this will serve services like 4G and 5G networks. And the third use case that we're working on is the pop-up network or the emergency network that might need to be up there in a few hours or few minutes to serve a festival or even serve emergency services in some rural locations. So Iqbal, you would like to add?
Yeah, just to add a few things. I mean, Whitehaul was developed for a desire to bridge the digital divide. We heard some real interesting presentations earlier about gigabit capability, the lack of gigabit penetration within the UK, and obviously that's where Project Gigabit and the government incentives are driving fibre. But there's still a significant percentage of the final 20% that aren't gigabit capable. They will need to be served by wireless technology because fibre is far too expensive. So what this technology will enable wireless ISPs to do is to serve those premises at costs that are not too different from serving urban properties with fibre. So it's a really commercially viable proposition. Now, just to explain, we are still at spin-out stage, so we're still part of University of Edinburgh. The plan is to, by the end of this year, find that investment that we need to commercialise and spin out. But we have done field trials in Alncombe last year. The guys in Northumberland supported us through those trials. So we have done some field trials. We're here today really for 2 reasons. One, there's not many investors here, but we are starting to launch and promote Whitehaul. We had a very successful press launch yesterday. If you go into ISP review, you'll see all sorts of information there. The other thing is we are now gearing up to build up the customer pipeline. So when you speak to as many wireless ISPs, and also forgot in my introduction, I wanted to say this is my first time to WISPA. It's a really great event. I'm really impressed by the kind of the community feel here. So, and thank you, David, for having us at such short notice. But yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
Absolutely. There will be subsequent questions, of course. Mo, you're an interesting sort of a chap. We need to know more about you because you think you've got a gigabit-capable wireless solution for us, and we like to know lots of stuff about people that do that. So, business, why did you establish the business? What's your background specifically? I mean, why are you doing this stuff? Because honestly, it can get you into some real trouble, as we've just heard. And tell us a bit more about the launch of the organisation, which we can go and read, but it'd be nice to hear from you, right?
So yeah, as Iqbal mentioned, so we are in 2023 and almost there is 40% of the world's population still doesn't have internet access. And the majority of these are living actually in rural areas or low-income region. So here we're talking about something like 2.5 billion without internet access now in 2023, which is kind of unfair, right? So this is the main reason that we founded Whitehaul. So the idea is to give the internet access. It's not anymore a luxury. It's a fundamental human rights. And our mission is to deliver internet access to everyone anywhere on Earth. And that's why, and this is the main reason that we founded Whitehaul. So about my background, so I did, as I said, I did my PhD in informatics in Edinburgh. Before that, I worked like several years in a major mobile operator. And then now in the last 2 years, I'm working on commercializing Whitehaul and trying to give everyone the rights to access the internet. And that means giving them better opportunities, not just in terms of opportunities, but also better education, better health system, and trying to empower them in order to get the best out of them.
Brilliant, thanks. I might throw a bit of a spanner in the works here, and I might actually go a bit off-piste, or at least out of order. What's the USP that you've got that you can offer these good folk out here? Because I think that'd be really interesting to understand.
I'll kick off with that, and then Mohammed can do the technical bit. So I think, really, even today we're having discussions with some wireless ISPs that line of sight is an issue. So this product has non-line of sight capabilities where you have hilly terrain or forests. Then the technology can overcome that. It can overcome it at long distances and achieve gigabit speeds. It doesn't do that yet. I think in the field trials last year with Alcom, we achieved something like 200 meg, 7 kilometers, non-line of sight. So we're already achieving really commercially viable rates that would be attractive. We just don't have a box that we can sell yet. But that's kind of the main USPs. Well, there's three. There's distance, speed, and non-line of sight. What that means is also that you don't need as many boxes to achieve the distance. So there's friends here from some of the other box sellers, Ubiquiti and Ciclo. You don't need as many of these, in a particular installation. So your cost per premise passed comes down to a lot more affordable levels.
Yeah, so maybe I will summarize that in one sentence. So we can provide, as I said, Iqbal, we are working on this. So we can provide 1 gigabit per second for non-line of sight conditions over a distance between 10 to 12 kilometers. So this is the thing that we're working on, and that I think we will discuss that in details later, but that release will be available by mid next year.
It's all sounding really good so far. There's got to be a catch. How have you got to where you've got to now? What's the development stages you've been through together?
So this has started as a research project in Edinburgh in 2018. So it was like 2 years research project. We worked with different major players. And then after that, from 2020, around mid-2021, we filed a patent application nationally and internationally. So this is a patent pending technology. And then from the whole 2021, we did several field trials, as Iqbal mentioned, with Alancom. And now this year as well, so we're going on more field trials with an enhanced product, or MVP, let's say MVP, that we work to try it in the field this year. Like we aim to 3 to 4 field trials in different conditions, different environments, and see how it will perform. And then with the objective to have the first release in mid-2024, as I mentioned. What do you want to answer?
Yeah, we had a really interesting conversation. So obviously we're Scotland-based, as you might be able to tell by my very tame Scottish accent. The Scotland 5G Centre, through them, there's been some opportunities to explore providing private 5G fixed wireless connectivity to offshore wind farm sites, for example. So there's other use cases that we're constantly exploring. There was use cases earlier on around, local authority, CCTV, fixed wireless to pop-up events, for example. So anywhere there's a backhaul requirement, and it's currently point-to-point, but I think, down the road I would like to kind of do something around point-to-multipoint as well, so we can start delivering connectivity to end-user premises as well. But currently it's a point-to-point.
It's all sounding good so far, right? There's going to be a catch in a minute. There's got to be, isn't there? Start thinking of questions. Competition. Where do you see your competition is? I could mention certain star things, but satellite maybe? Is that a competition for you?
Yeah, so this is always a question we hear when we talk about fixed wireless access. So why satellite will not take over everything? So basically, there's two main reasons. So let me start first by starting with the technical reason, because I'm coming from this technical background. So satellite is like any other wireless network. It has a capacity problem. So for each and every one of these new satellites that we see now in the space, they only have a limited capacity of 20 gigabits per second. And the estimation is that by 5 years from now, we will have around 15,000 satellites up there in the space. So with a simple math, we can just estimate the total capacity of this network by multiplying these two numbers together, right? And then understanding how much capacity or how much speeds we provide for each customer, we can easily estimate the upper bound and lower bound of the maximum number of subscribers that can be served by this kind of network. So the estimation is something between 30 to 100 million. But if you compare this to the number of unconnected population, so this is something around 4% of the unconnected population. So the short answer, satellite is promising, and the cost is getting down because of the innovation that we had or we saw in this space dimension, but it still is not the solution for everything that we have problem in. So this is the technical side of it. So the commercial side of it, and I think Iqbal can talk more about it, which is still the cost per premise is still higher for satellites compared to the fixed wireless. Iqbal, you would like to add?
Yeah, thanks. I'm not a specialist in satellite, but my experience of talking to people that have satellite and perhaps Starlink is that it's expensive. It's good, but it's expensive. And I think that's still going to be a barrier to taking up broadband in these kind of really remote areas, and it's not gigabit capable, which obviously this product will enable gigabit capable performance characteristics. And I think, as you can probably tell from my grey hair, I've been in the industry now for over 25, 30 years. Satellite's always been, what about satellite? And it's always been playing catch-up. I think it's still playing catch-up. And in that time, fibre technology's moved on, wireless technology's moved on, and that gap between satellite and fixed wireless is still there in my view. I think there will be a place for it in certain instances, maybe pop-up networks, and particularly maybe in parts of Africa and Asia and maybe parts of North America, rural areas, which are other markets that we're targeting, by the way. So we're starting in the UK, but we will be rolling out to the US and further beyond. So that's, we have a global expansion plan or dream. But yeah, satellite is always a bit of a thorn in the side, but I think there's, as Mohammed's demonstrated, there's real technical reasons why satellite wouldn't be a direct competitor, as it is probably for you guys as well. You probably might come against satellite as a competitor in your field.
So this almost sounds too good to be true, but let's assume that we've all bought in so far. You're not the kind of guy that's just going to sit there and not move on from this. What's the future? Where do you plan to go with this, Mo?
So at least the short-term plan, as I mentioned, so by mid next year, we will have the release one, which is a multi-band product that will support different spectrum band. So we're focusing on sub 700 megahertz as a one band, and the shared spectrum 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz as a one band, and then the new Wi-Fi 7 6 gigahertz band. So that will be in a one product that support both the long distances by relying on the lower frequencies, and at the same time backing up that with high capacity coming from the higher frequencies. So that will be by mid-2024. And in this year, we're working on this similar field trials to try this and test it before it comes to the market.
Yeah, one of the big things for the end of this year is to launch an MVP, or a minimal viable product, which will be, deployable in a kind of pilot or live customer situation, but as a kind of pilot. And as we've done a number of field trials, we'll do a few more this year. And we're in active discussions to get some field trials arranged for this year. The plan is, as I mentioned earlier, is to fund. We've got funding for this year through Scottish Enterprise. Next year, we expect to raise some funding to take us through 2024 and have a fully releasable product in 2024 in terms of our roadmap.
Brilliant, thanks, gents. Whitehaul do have some questions for you in just a moment, but have you got any questions for them? Yes, good. Good. On my way. Promise not to try and fall down the steps.
I think my table has a lot of questions, actually. We've got a big one around spectrum. What spectrum bands are you using, and what's the channel width?
So the current MVP that we're working on this year is using the sub 700 megahertz, so from 470 up to 690. So channel width varies from 20 up to 80.
Okay, so they're not bands that we can really use as providers here. So how does this work for us in our N77 band? Any plans to sort of move it up? And then does that scupper what you're trying to do in terms of speed, distance, and everything else?
So for this, that's what I mentioned. So for the release one, we're planning to not just rely on the 700 megahertz, but also to add different spectrum bands. So the shared spectrum, which is more cleaner than 5 gigahertz, for example, and the new one, the 6 gigahertz spectrum, which is much more cleaner than even the Wi-Fi 5. So we will add these two spectrums in the release one, and we actually do this kind of aggregation in a like a dynamic way. So it's based on your use case, you will select and be able to configure the product to use the spectrum band that will fit the use case that you're applying for.
Thank you.
So just in kind of layman's terms, it's software defined, so it can be reconfigured without additional hardware modules and costs, so you can get multiple spectrum band capability within one box.
I was just going to go to the back to Mr. Buchan, but he's not here. There was always going to be a question from him, wasn't there?
Once you do come up with the kind of eventual boxed product for a point-to-point link, what kind of size is it? Are you looking at a 3-foot thing or like a smaller?
The box is similar. It's similar to the existing box. It's the size of the Ubiquiti, size of the Siklu. But we currently, as I said, we don't have the final product, so we don't have a black box. We have a prototype, and that we're working with.
Currently, we have a PC board and a laptop. But I think you're looking at shoebox kind of size, aren't we?
Any more questions from the room? Hold on, here we go.
Hi, yeah, so this is obviously point-to-point technology at the moment. What sort of latency and jitter, particularly in a non-line of sight environment, could we expect from this technology?
So we're talking about, the field trial that we did last summer, we're talking about latency around 2 to 3 milliseconds, and distances are up to 7 kilometers, as Iqbal mentioned. And also these are non-line of sight conditions. So we're talking about 2 to 3 milliseconds.
Okay.
Hi, just wondered, are you creating your own radio and sort of radio stack physical layer transport, or are you just sort of upmixing Wi-Fi to those bands? So
this is one of the things that part of the our patent. So maybe we can have a one-to-one discussion discussing that in details.
Okay. Naughty bear, Tim. You're not allowed to ask questions like that.
We can tell you, but we'll have to shoot you afterwards.
Absolutely.
I've been dying to say that.
Shoot the lot of them. Any more questions in the room? I'm going back to the front. I know, I'm coming to you. The Lord Burns.
Thank you. I was going to walk towards you, but I thought, why? Just so that I'm clear, the key proposition here is distance in challenging conditions, shall we say, so non-line of sight in particular, which can be a game changer in a lot of areas, especially where the population is quite sparse. Have you also looked at, or are you planning to look at, using the carrier aggregation, the sort of spectrum aggregation, just to do mega high speeds? Because there are also use cases where the distance isn't the biggest challenge. People want 20 gigabits or 50 gigabits or something, or higher. Is that a scenario that you're also considering as well?
So yeah, so this is the thing. This is something we're looking at. Yes, it's not our first proposition, but this is something we rely on because I don't know. I haven't mentioned that, but this technology is a frequency agnostic, so it works with any frequency band that we configure within the hardware. So it doesn't rely on a specific spectrum band or. I mean, yeah, we said the unique proposition is the distance and the speed. But if you don't have a problem with the distance, and we would like to have, like, as I said, 20 gigahertz or 50 gigahertz of gigabit per second, we can do that.
Yeah, okay, I think it's an interesting one. And, you know, the use case I have in mind, there are lots of fiber build-outs that require really high bandwidth backhaul, and then they meet a road, you know, a freeway, a river, a rail crossing. The distance may not be that high, but the requirement might be 100 gigabits or something like that. I think it's quite an interesting use case, and if you can fix that, that might also be a good, interesting opportunity for you.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, my role coming in here was more about commercial and understanding, you know, helping the market develop and developing a proposition so the product meets the market. And to do that, you kind of have to pick the lowest hanging fruit, and the lowest hanging fruit was the rural gigabit challenge and unlocking that. But that's not to say, and you know, in fact, I went on holiday last year for a week, and I came back, and you know, the professor that was the CTO or the kind of scientific advisor, Mohammed, said, "Yeah, we're doing urban." I was like, "No, we're not. We're doing rural. That's what we're fixing on first." So the first, there's so many things this product can do, but the initial focus is rural gigabit. But that's not to say, you know, we're having conversations with someone in this room today about, you know, a kind of a very short distance, high bandwidth, and we might just take a left turn because you do have to pivot in a young company. And if there's, you know, if we see one opportunity that just has a lot of interest and creates a lot of, you know, opportunity, then we'll go down that route. But it's, you know, we have to go down what makes sense.
Thanks, gents. So some questions for you. Time for you now to wake up a little bit. Get your paddles out, please. Does Whitehaul's capability to make rural gigabit more affordable interest you? Assuming, of course, that they will. Oh, I think that's some interesting shows of green thumbs there. Pin your lug holes back. This is important for you operator people. Would you be interested in trialling the kit? Throw some darts at those people and stick them to the back wall. You've also just poured a tin of celebrations over your table as well. Oh, sorry, have I just told everybody that you've got chocolates? Can you all see the advantages of what's being proposed over and above satellite as a solution? Again, no reds, gents, so I think that's really good news. Mo, Iqbal, thank you very much for bringing this to us this early. Did you want to wrap up and say something?
I was just going to say thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Thank you for bringing this to us this early. It's great to have an opportunity from our point of view, the members' point of view, to engage at this early stage, and hopefully together we can learn and develop this into something that's useful for you guys, useful for the room as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Whitehaul.